तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Having discussed the reasons in detail, a number of reasons why this knowledge is so rare and why people even don't get a chance to listen, and even having listened, the understanding is gone missing. And there are many reasons. We saw that Adhyatmika mostly, and sometimes Adi Bhautika also. And Adhidaivikam are centered on Bhagavan, centered on the surroundings and centered on I. Everything is centered on Bhagavan ultimately, or you can say everything is centered on I. But regardless of how one looks at it, it is true that the only thing that you can change is Adhyatmika. You cannot change the world, you cannot change people, you cannot change Bhagavan. And of course, if you are Bhagavan, then how can I change me if I am Bhagavan? But the me we are talking about is a parallel, Vikshepa, your own projections. And those can be withdrawn. That is what is the whole idea behind these teachings, is that when the projections become more real than the objective reality of Bhagavan, of oneself as Bhagavan, then troubles in samsara start to brew. That's when Jagat becomes samsara. And so lifetime after lifetime is spent in purifying the antahkarana through various means and ends, finite means and ends, roaming around, sometimes aimlessly, and sometimes the only aim of things that happen in life is to make sure that the antahkarana somehow, because of punya, gets a chance to get purified. And then finally, hopefully, with this clear antahkarana means the inner instrument, mind, etc., that is free of ragadveshas, then gets to see the truth of itself. So as long as the ragadveshas are a parallel reality, then what happens? Nothing. It's business as usual, And sometimes the covering, avarna, the American pronunciation is avarana. That's not it is. Yeah, someone said, what about avarana? When will that go? I said, who is she? I didn't know. I thought it was a woman's name. Avarana. And so avarna, this covering of what? Jnanam, anyatha jnanam. All this is the covering, and the covering is so thick sometimes. Is that, if I know there is covering, then I will do something to remove it, correct? But many times what happens? Shrinvantopi yam na vidyuhu, I am explaining again. Many times the person who has covering doesn't know that there is covering. They'll say everything is fine. Vedanta is stupid, that's all. Everything is fine. Just something wrong with the teaching, something wrong with the teacher, something wrong with the Upanishad. I don't like this Upanishad. Maybe some other Upanishad will work. And perhaps it will. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe the blocks are triggered by certain Upanishads and certain teachers. So, no problem. That's why there are so many teachers and so many ways to learn. And if people don't like Upanishads at all, there is Bhagavad Gita. If people don't like Shruti, there is all these Vedanta texts which reiterate like Aparoksha Anubhuti, Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, this Bodha, that Bodha. Yeah. If no Bodha works, we say better luck next time. That's all. No problem. There is no judgment even. It is just how it is. Sometimes the covering is so thick that unless I have an idea that there is I'm being covered, I'm being blocked by my own defenses and offenses, then there is no, there is no attempt. Until I know I cannot make an attempt to remove something that I don't know, that I don't know exists. This is how thick the covering is. That I don't even know it is there. That's why it's called unconscious. Means it is in a comatose state, lying all over me. I'm not able to see this. Only when I know that I'm carrying this dead weight of ragadveshas, which is in a vegetative state and is demanding and is high maintenance, then only I can throw off the weight. But if I don't know that I'm carrying the weight, then the shoulders are slumped. I am, like this, and everything is huge and everything is terrible, and then I don't know why Vedanta is not working. This is the problem. And so, continuing on the same note, on the same tone, the further conditions for this knowledge, the conducive conditions for the knowledge to take place, are plumbed in the next mantra. And this mantra is full of word plays, full of double, triple entendres. Very nice mantra. And Adi Shankara, of course, gives a long bhashya considering all the possible ways of looking at this particular mantra. Very nice. And then that is one specialty of this mantra. And the other specialty of this mantra is that it takes a very fair account. I mean, here, it left us off in the previous mantra, Kushala Anushishtaha, Kushala Jnata, Kushala Anushishtaha. The knower, Jnata, Jna plus Trich, Jnatru, the agent of knowing, the knower of this knowledge, the Acharya who knows and who has assimilated this knowledge, and not only that, but the Acharya who is able to convey this to others, and the student of a qualified Acharya. What kind of a student? A qualified student of a qualified Acharya. That is a very dynamic combo, like a very wonderful, unassailable combination, which makes sure that the knowledge is intact for everybody in the Jagat to enjoy. This is where we left off. But then what happens when there is a truti? What is truti? A miss. Either in the Acharya or in the student, what happens and how that takes place? Because the Upanishad is very fair, because usually what we say, and this is true also, that there cannot be a bad guru. Yeah, we say that. Because the word guru itself is got a specific meaning. Ajnana Nivartakaha. The remover of ignorance is the guru. We are not talking of dance guru and dancing gurus and gurus who teach cha and music gurus and mantra gurus. There are some gurus who just say our job is to give mantras. That's what. Blessing gurus, Jagat gurus, all kinds of gurus. We are not talking of all of that. Gukaraha Andhakaraha Vai. The syllable gu means darkness, or actually tamas. Tamas means what? Ignorance. Ru, the syllable ru stands for tan nivartakaha, the remover of this ignorance. That's the guru. So Mahavakya Upadesha Karta is guru, the one who teaches the non-difference between Ishvara and Jiva. That's the only guru teaches. Not just says I am Ishvara and you are not. There are many people who say that. They are called God man. Yeah. God, they call themselves, or other people call them, I'm unclear about this, God man. You know, God men, God man, something like that. I am God, so are you. You'll never know, I know. This is one version of this. Or I am God and you are, guess what? You are not. This is another version. And so, this non difference, who is able to convey as more than an aphorism, it's not sutra, Tattvamasi Sutra, as more than just an aphorism. As more than just a possibility. The one who is able to not only see clearly, but make you also see. Here there are many people who are able to see somewhat they see. They have some vagueness, some doubt, some error, but they have had some, what are they called? Samadhic experiences, meaning they have these experiences of non-duality. Suddenly they go off into a trance in the middle of a lecture, highly disconcerting, and then suddenly they will start having, some visions. Suddenly they will have some oneness feeling, and sitting in that oneness feeling, when the guru, the so-called guru here, is having a samadhi, or a what is samadhi? Some kind of a non-dual experience, experience meditation, experience some kind of a trance, some oneness experience. And so when the shishyas, the so-called shishyas of this so-called guru, are participating in this oneness experience, there is oneness all around. You see? Oneness begets oneness. And so that's why, in the same thing, if there is a music guru, a bhajan guru, what is that? Kirtan guru, someone who is singing their way to ecstasy and says that this is oneness, and so the songs are maybe they are very blessed musically. And what do? They compose, or they put new tunes to old songs, or whatever it is. There's some beautiful compositions. They are very much in touch with Bhagavan. They are great bhaktas, no doubt about it. And I'm not putting anything down. I'm just sort of showing what this mantra is going to show. So, what happens as a result of participating in one of these bhajan sessions or kirtan sessions is that everybody comes out wanting a hanky, because all the eyes are wet in the room, all the eyes are wet without a fail, because they are able to communicate something, non-verbally through the music, because the music excites. The music entices. How long this garbage is going to be collected? Huh? 3 trucks are there? Yeah. Close the windows for the time being. After they go, you can open it. We should have said Sahana Bhavatu with more fervor. So this is the thing. They are able to communicate something, and their bhakti, their devotion, their surrender, and their desire for oneness is so sincere and so genuine that everybody falls into that oneness, But then what happens? Once you get out of the bhajan scenario, then what? This samsara rises. Samsara comes back, and that's why such kinds of teachers actually become very addictive. Yeah. They replace the samsara addiction, which is not a bad thing, but then ultimately there is no gati. Gatihi astra nasti. There is no gati except samsara. This is going to be pointed out later in this mantra. And so what is the problem here? The problem is not that they are not genuine people. The problem is not that they are not eager to teach. The problem is not that they are, charlatans or whatever it is. That's not the problem. The problem is they themselves think that oneness has to be genuinely and every minute reproduced. Otherwise, it's a fragile oneness. They are convinced that it's a fragile oneness that has to be reproduced through song, dance, samadhi, whatever it is, breathing techniques, yogic techniques, what bhogic techniques, whatever techniques that they are showcasing. So that is their technique, and that this oneness is a result of karma. It's a karmically produced oneness, which actually blocks the understanding that it is a unproduced oneness that is your reality. So what is the difference between using the bhajan as for a contact high and using malls and balls and movies as a contact high? Yeah, there is not much difference. There is one difference in the sense that at least using the bhajan as a contact high, there are chances of knowing Bhagavan, because Bhagavan is the object of all those bhajans. So using the bhajans as a contact high accomplishes something that the malls and the balls do not do, in the sense that they can turn you into a bhakta of Bhagavan. And bhakti is an important precursor to this knowledge, because bhakti offers an altar of surrender where I can surrender all these blocks which I know I have, which I don't know I have, which I don't think I have but I have, but which I think I do not have but I have. All these blocks can be, can be surrendered on the altar, of Bhagavan. And this is what is this is what is taught, but what is by these such teachers. And even though they are teaching their own idea of oneness, it is not in keeping with the Shruti, number one. Why is it not in keeping with the Shruti? Because the oneness that is described in the Shruti is an unproduced oneness, that is your own nature. It's an uncreated oneness. It is an uncreated limitlessness which is you. And then even though some out of these teachers, some may know this, but they are not able to communicate this. Like people like, what is that person who was writing all these poetries? Rumi. Yeah. He wrote, you are that. What are you praying? Why are you going to mosques and hollering the name of God? Why are you doing this? Standing up on a tower and hollering the name of God? That the one who is not hard of hearing is residing in your heart. And things like this. There are many poems that describe, which is very close to Vedanta, which is really, talking about this vision. That's why I say Vedanta is not the product of Hinduism. Vedanta is that body of knowledge which spontaneously arises everywhere, wherever there is creation, wherever there is a longing for this oneness, this knowledge has arisen. And why is Vedanta that is coming from the Upanishads special? Because it's the only culture and it's the only way, it's the only body of knowledge which has maintained intact the teaching tradition. That is what makes it special. The knowledge is there everywhere. Anywhere this is, this oneness is described, it is Vedanta alone. We are not biased. We are just saying that the teaching tradition is very important, because without which this oneness cannot be internalized, or it may be somewhat sensed but not fully understood. And so, Rumi and Hafiz, another one, wrote a lot of such Vedantic poems. And even started, whether they started or not, around them started some Sufi parampara. This is what is called Sufism, a lightened part of, an offshoot of Islam, which is, which does not have all those dogmatic, dogmatic belief systems and understanding, wrong understanding of whatever, it says. It doesn't talk about all that. It goes beyond all that and talks about the philosophy of this, what really is this Allah that that the Quran is unfolding. It talks about that very beautifully from a very Vedantic place of oneness. However, again, the teaching tradition is not there. It's not there. You can clearly see. Everybody says, okay, and now whatever I have seen of this, I mean, even though it's very beautiful and they revel in the poetry and the bhajans and the whirling, the turning, they say that the turning produces the oneness. Yes, in a way it does, because it produces a certain kind of oneness, because you become one with the elements. And first you feel dizzy and you feel like falling down, but then it's just you see that you are not holding your balance up. You see that there is a beautiful synergy between Bhagavan as gravity, Bhagavan as your body, Bhagavan as the Vayu, and you feel like you are doing Tandava like Lord Shiva. We have our own whirling Darvesh. Yeah, the original one, Lord Shiva, who did the same thing. Yeah, and we say that was the starting point of the creation is Bhagavan not in repose, is creator, is creation. When Bhagavan starts to dance, creation is there, and the day Bhagavan stops dancing, back in repose, everything is Laya. So Lasya and Laya, those are the two aspects of this, of Bhagavan. Lasya, yesterday evening we saw, Lasya means this, this Bhagavan with the creation, the dance, and then Laya is the stopping of the dance, the resolution of everything. And this we already have this, but that they all turn like this, clockwise, anti-clockwise, all thing, and then they forget themselves. And this is what is really the teaching in a way, because when you forget yourself, what is this yourself? The temporary identity of the ahankara as the knower, as the controller of everything. This is what the I is there. The temporary identity with the body, mind, sense complex is forgotten by the turning, the singing, the whatever else, the yoga, whatever it is one is doing, and then that creates a certain kind of a oneness in which people revel together. And there is nothing wrong in that, but that is just a preparation for us. We don't deny that, we don't put that down, but we are also very clear that there is more miles to go. Yes, there's miles to go. That is just the paving stone, so that the feet don't hurt on this journey to moksha. That is just a stone, a stepping stone to taking off here. Here all these producers of oneness who pass as teachers of spirituality, and who this interfaith world is crowded with. These are the people I meet, and wonderful souls, great people. But what is there? The teaching methodology is not there, other than the methodology of how they think they got the it. And the idea is, if you keep living in this turning, and then that oneness which is produced by the turning, for example, or by the bhajans, anything you can take, will slowly become more and more part of your life, and you are constantly in that oneness. Maybe there is some truth to it, but really speaking, even if that is true, even if that were to be true, that oneness is not communicable, other than as some kind of an ecstatic experience. But we are not looking for ecstasy. We are not looking for ecstasy. That is not the point of this, studying Bhashya or studying the Upanishad is not for some kind of ecstasy. Because the ecstasy that is you is to be discovered, which is an already siddha, accomplished fact. We are not looking to accomplish any ecstasy other than what is there already, that needs to be discovered through a process of dropping the ignorance around the self, which includes going for these time-bound experiences. Dropping the ignorance and the projection centered around the I, which projects itself in the penchant for time-bound experiences. And therefore what? Therefore, this is a big problem, because this is what the Upanishad is targeting in this mantra. And if one thinks, I'm doing all the right things, Upanishad said, find a teacher. Parikshalokan karmachitan gurumeva abhigachet. Go to the guru. I found a teacher. Dancing guru, singing guru, so many kinds. I found a teacher, and they will, unfortunately, they call themselves gurus because they feel like they have something to give. They don't know that technically what is meant by the word guru, what is, they have not studied that. They don't know. They themselves have not studied. So they may be Brahmanishtha, in other words, meaning they somehow understand this oneness, but they don't know how to communicate it. Or they understand wrongly that the oneness has to be reproduced, reproduced. So many problems. And so therefore, this oneness is fraught with vagueness, doubt and error. And that is why the teaching becomes avara. Avara means what? Not vara. Na vara. Avara. Vara means varishtha, shrestha. Shrestha means superior. The most ideal. Vara. Avara. Not ideal. Avara. So, that is what is going to be talked about. And it's also going to be talked about in this verse, in this mantra, how difficult the Atma is to know, being yourself. It is very difficult to put a finger on it. And why? Because it is, the product of so many conjectures. And based on those conjectures, if you have a teaching tradition, Namaha, that is what it says. 8th verse. न नरेणावरेण प्रोक्त एषः
न नरेणावरेण प्रोक्त एषः
सुविज्ञेयो बहुधा चिन्त्यमानः
सुविज्ञेयो बहुधा चिन्त्यमानः
अनन्यप्रोक्ते गतिरत्र नास्ति
अनन्यप्रोक्ते गतिरत्र नास्ति
अणीयान्यतर्क्यमनुप्रमाणात्
अणीयान्यतर्क्यमनुप्रमाणात्.
Yeah, starts with na, beautiful. Yeah, starts with na, meaning what are the conditions where the teaching is not received, not gained, not got, is going to be the topic of the verse. This mantra is told right at the beginning. Narena, nariyate iti naraha. The one that is always springs back, like a weed, never dies away. This jiva is called nara. Nariyate. Riyate means dies away. Nariyate iti naraha, that is the vyutpatti, the grammatical origin of the word nara. Na riyate, naraha. Narasya ayana, narayana, that the goal of the human being is called the Lord Narayana. But nariyate iti naraha, what is that? Riyate means never not comes back, meaning this jiva always popping up, life after life after life. Here I am, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Did you miss me? Next birth. Did you miss me already? Next birth. Did you miss me? Did you notice I was gone? Here I am, sometimes back in the same family, Yeah, recently somebody said, there is this small child, some relative's child was born, a girl. And so I said, what is she like? By this time she was about 5-6 months old. Said that she's just like the grandmother that passed away. Was born frowning, continues to frown. She, the grandmother was also like that. So this is what it is. So sometimes in the same family, it's very clear how it is. And so nariyate iti naraha. So it's interesting. It doesn't say taught by a teacher. Nara, yeah. So this jiva, this unsuccessful jiva, coming back, coming back, suddenly said, "Oh, this is what it is. After so many trips, I found it." What? One more trip? Yeah, dancing trip, singing trip. After so many trips back to this, mortal world of mortals or any other earth-like world where human birth is possible. I got it, Eureka! Like that fellow came out of the bathtub and ran through the streets of ancient Greece. Like that. This fellow also is convinced that I have it and nobody else does. But doesn't know anything except that oneness experience, and that oneness experience is beaten like a dead horse and then trademarked, packaged, and given to everyone. Yeah. There are many words for human being. There is Purusha, Manushya, so many words are there, but it is interesting. Nariyate, Nara is used. Why is Nara used? Because such kinds of people keep popping up. In the world of the spiritual thing. Isn't this beautiful? Such kinds of people keep popping up. These kinds of poppin' jays, who fancy themselves as knowing everything. Swayam Panditam Manyamanaha, that verse has just gone by, let us not forget. They think of themselves, they style themselves as gurus. They buy a board that says Guru and put it right here. On top of their heads, they hang a shingle, Guru. And they insist that people call them gurus. And then, after hanging a shingle, they wait for the students to come. They will keep one eye closed, one hand up in the air. There is one, if you go to Kumbh Mela, you meet all these people. There is Upar Haath Wale Baba. One Baba pointing, unfortunately up. And then he has remained like this. You have to give the what is that? You have to give full marks for the tapas, for the austerity. One day apparently he was in Maunam, he was not speaking, and somebody said, where is Bhagavan? And he pointed up. Wrong answer, but anyhow. And he forgot to put the hand down because he was in Samadhi, and the hand stayed up. Already, see, I am feeling like I should put this down, but he stayed like this, and now the hand has become bony, like a bark of a sthanu, trunk of a tree, and has atrophied, no blood supply, imagine. And it is just like rigor mortis, rigor alivis has set in because the person is alive, only the hand is, not functioning. And so that person, there was a National Geographic segment on him because even now he is caught pointing like this. And so like this, this is the wrong, either the wrong information or the information which is somewhat right but is riddled with doubts, vagueness and error, or the information about this oneness which is given as an experience rather than the truth of oneself. So one keeps on becoming hungry for the experience. So they're not bad people. They are not like the people who sway the andhe naiva niyamanaha. Maybe some of them are, but all of them are not out to hoodwink humanity. But they are avara. They are not the proper carriers of this knowledge, and their students also will not receive the knowledge properly. They may be genuinely believing that what they have to offer is valuable, and they may be genuinely peddling what they know, but what they know is not enough, and what they know is based on reproducing something that is uncreated, that is oneself. So avarena, narena avarena. Why this kind of a nara? These popping jays who keep popping up and dotting the spiritual field, and who also become famous. Why do they become famous? Because they reproduce samsara. They become famous because they are actually reproducing samsara. How are they reproducing samsara? They are reproducing samsara because in samsara is characterized by codependency and addiction. That is samsara. This is big time samsara. Don't think that codependency and addiction, even though it's the language of Alcoholic Anonymous, it is actually Alcoholics Anonymous, alcoholism and other addictions are samsara within samsara. Original samsara means addictive behaviors of any kind. When I lean on something and make it into a prop, that is improper. This is what is samsara. And the thing that I lean on is going to give way sooner or later. It is finite. And if I don't know this, then I will fall. I will have a problem, with adjusting my expectations, and I will be left wanting and disappointed. Left wanting because already I was wanting. So this is what is samsara. So then the same thrill from the malls and the balls is got for the spiritually minded. One more exciting little outlet or a big outlet. That's why such ashrams become very big sometimes, or such people have so many followers, and sometimes they are very, dangerous also, but not always. They are harmless. They exist because they are helping people prepare to gain this knowledge. Some ragadveshas go away, some antakarna is purified, but they are not getting the knowledge. They sit and do seva, they sit and do bhajans, they sit and do some katha, whatever it is. So this is all comes under avara. This is not a judgment of the Upanishad, it's a fact. Avara means navara, simple negation. Anyarthe nanj, other than vara. What is vara is atma. Why? Varishtatvat, because it's the absolute, because that is what you want. You don't want another contact high. What you want is to understand that you are the highest reach and you are out of reach really to all other philosophies, to all other, duvidhas, all other doubts, all other things. You are the highest, you are the absolute. That is vara. This is anyarthe nanj, meaning it's not, anything else. Anything else doesn't cut it. That's what it is. There is 4 kinds of negation in Sanskrit. Avara here means navara, anyarthe. Anything other than that which delivers the truth is not cutting it. Yeah. It may give you preparation, it may give you a high, you may become a better person as a result of it, you may become a better seeker, you may become more resolved, it will give you all the things we talked about yesterday, Shraddha, Shama, Dama, etc. So it's not a wrong thing, but it is avara still, because it's not giving you what Nachiketa asked for in the 3rd moon is not going to be got. The narena, avarena, 3rd case, by this nara, by these kinds of people who don't have this knowledge completely, or whose knowledge is riddled with vagueness, doubt, error and mysticism without teaching, and such tena proktah, by taught, prakarshena uktah, taught by such people, na ayam atma suvigneyah, jnanam, knowledge, jneyah, to be known, potential participle, jneyah, and then sushtu plus vigneyah, definitely known, clearly, sushtu vigneyah, clearly known without a shadow of doubt, vagueness or error. So you can go to these people, says the Upanishad. You can get preparation from them. You can get bhakti, you can get shraddha, you can get all kinds of things for the knowledge, but the Atma will not be known clearly as a result of these teachings, because the teacher, the so-called teacher here itself is avara, and avara begets avara. Avara teaches only about avara, not about vara. Simple, So therefore, na narena avarena proktah eshaha. Eshaha means this. This, the preposition has an immediacy here. This means I, aham shabda gocharaha, aham vishaya gocharaha. That which is the the product of eye cognition, which is really not a product, that which is the subject of eye cognition, which is never an object, this I is not clearly known, is very vaguely known, vaguely understood, or not understood at all when taught by a non-qualified person. Doesn't even, the Upanishad falls shy of calling the person a teacher. That's why Nara. And doesn't use Purusha. Because, why? Because Purusha has another meaning. Purusha has another meaning in terms of Bhagavan. So he doesn't even use that. He uses the simple word, the one who keeps coming back with wrong conclusions repeatedly. So the spiritual field is dotted by such kinds of people, and who pass off as teachers and who pass off also as teachers of the Atma, but under their tutelage, na narena, taught by them, this Atma is na suvigneya. This Atma which is to be known, eshaha, this you that you are hungering to understand, you are really wanting to understand, is not properly understood, is not properly known. Why is given here? Hetu garbhita visheshana bahudha chintyamanatvat, chintyamanyatvat. Chintyamanaha is a chintya, is a causal plus what is that, the passive plus present participle. Yeah, so passive present participle construction. So chintyamanaha, chintyamanatvat, because bahudha means by many people and also by many in many ways. Many and varied conclusions, Atma becomes the target. The Atma is the target of many and varied conclusions. Some say it is a flicker of consciousness. Like the, what is that? Disco. You know? You go the, what is it called? Strobe light. So like this. When you go there, you just feel like, some kind of a torture. Somebody is, you are put in some kind of an inquisition. Apparently this is what they do to people who want to ask questions from in a torture situation, because the person, if you catch a suspect and ask them nicely, now come on, let's talk about this over a cup of tea, here is a cupcake as well, coffee cake, and please tell me everything you know. Do you think they are going to cough up the information? Not on your life. So what the interrogators have to think of many and varied ways of making them cough up the information, and one such thing is this shining this bright light. I mean, it's enough to give, and this blinking this in the face, it's enough to give someone epilepsy. That is what it does for people who have any tendency towards epilepsy. It can cause a grand mal, immediately. So this fellow thinks that Atma is an epileptic fit. It keeps coming. This is one kind of Chintyamana. In fact, there is a whole philosophy on this. Shine, no shine. Flicker, no flicker. That's why everything is impermanent. Everything is a flicker. And then, flicker. And we are not referring to the photo sharing site, please. And so flicker. You ask them one question, are you a flicker? Yes. Who said that? This flicker. And then, but I asked you a question earlier. 2 minutes ago I asked you the question. Oh, then at that time it was that flicker. So now what will you say? If I ask this flicker, what will it say? Yes, I am a flicker. Then how did this flicker? Was this flicker existent at that time when that flicker answered yes to the question? No, how can it be? You don't understand the philosophy at all. That flicker was not there when this question was asked, and this flicker is answering right now. All right, granted, we are just trying to understand your flickering philosophy, which is flickering out. And so, now, that flicker was not there, you said, when it answered yes to the question, are you a flicker? Correct. I'm telling you, why? Are you dim-witted or something? No, I'm just trying to understand. So if that flicker did not exist, had stopped existing by the time this question asked, how did this flicker know it is a flicker? No, you see, the flickers are continuous. Flicker, 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 flicker. Now, I understand that. I understand that. I understand that the flickers are continuous. Nobody is doubting that. But I am interested in knowing what happens between one flicker that has flickered out and the other flicker that is yet to flicker in. So there is a moment of no flicker, correct? That's right. There is a moment of no flicker. That's the whole point of being in the present. So then, so what did you have for breakfast yesterday? Well, I had dosas. How did you know now? How is memory possible? Memory is constant. In fact, you remember all things. You remember that you don't like my asking these questions from a long time. How do you know that? How do you remember that? Because one flicker is just such a poor little pavam flicker. You know, this sad little flicker that has no bearing, and it is just barely alive enough to say, who am I? And then it dies. Much less can it, it's not like a memory stick which you stick into the USB port of the computer and then it downloads all the memory and then it passes on to the next stick. No, there is no passing on, because it has passed out before it can pass on. It's just a small flicker. Flicker means it is practically non-existent except for a minuscule second when it just flares. When it just flares, and so therefore this flicker cannot communicate with the next flicker, and also this flicker will not know that there is going to be another flicker. If you know that there is going to be another flicker, that means there is something other than the flicker that you are calling you. How do you know you're a flicker? Because I see everything is finite, everything is permanent. Aha! The one who sees that everything is impermanent. Who is that? I am also impermanent. Impermanent cannot notice another impermanent. You find this, Sometimes you are sitting in the plane, this happens, and your plane is slowly backing out. Correct? And the plane in the next bay is also backing out. You cannot sense the movement. Only when you are still, you're unclear whether you are moving or they are moving. You're unclear. If your plane or train is stationary, then only you can see the movement, sense movement. So if you're sensing movements of flickers, you call them flickers of consciousness. I don't. If you call them flickers of whatever it is, that means you are a non-flickering entity to whom the flickers are becoming evident. That we call consciousness. This is Bahudha Chintyamana. Another person, Atma has to be breathed in. Take a deep breath. Atma, this is Atma, feel it, And then what? Breathe out samsara. Breathe in moksha. Breathe out samsara. Only for $750 I'll teach you this breathing in moksha. What is breathed in is breathed out, correct? Yeah. And if you breathe in, if one breathes in and doesn't breathe out, that is called death. Okay? Yeah. That's why they say that he took in his last breath. Yeah. Vayu said, I'm not coming out. What has this fellow achieved? Prana said, forget it. Off we go. Correct? So that is what. That's why they say he breathed in his last, because nothing happened after that. They put the mirror in the nose, in front. This is the old-fashioned way. Now we need all these gadgets. Before, a simple mirror they would keep and say, no, breathing is occurring. That's all. And so now, this is the situation. So persons say, you breathe in moksha, breathe out samsara. another, Bahudha Chintyamana. Then third one, Ishvara, very different from you. That's why in this life you have to be gooder. Goodest you have to be. And then what? Then you will go to Ishvara. When? After casting off the mortal shackles of samsara, this body is a trap. Yes, what is inside is wanting to go to Ishvara. This jiva is like a moth unto a flame, that is Ishvara. Wants to commit suicide in Ishvara. And then what? Wants to become one with Ishvara. And so this lowly jiva has to cast off this barrier. The body is a barrier. Cannot get out and meet this Ishvara. Mind is a bigger barrier. Shackles. And the shackles will fall with Ishvara's grace, perhaps quicker than later. What do I have to do? You have to just bhajofai, bhajare. Yeah, bhajare. And then what? Then you have to, there is one, what is that? Dandiya. There is one, this kolu, they take, this sticks. And with this they play. It's a stick dance. And the idea is you get adept at the dance here because that's the only dance Lord Krishna knows. He doesn't know any other dance. So you have to go around and know the steps of this dance. Ras Leela, it is called. And so the chosen few who have been good, who have said the truth, who have, eaten at Govinda's and who have all their life, and who have eaten sattvic food, and who have, played click-clack, and then who finally die away being a very dharmic person, get the rare opportunity to get golden and silver sticks studded with diamonds to play with Lord Krishna himself. They go to a place called Goloka Vrindavana, and they go there and they just ching ching, click click, click clack, divine click clacks, and and you just have, this is one version of moksha. Another version, slightly amended version, is that you are different but you are not different. This one, you are completely different from this Bhagavan. And then the other version, you are different. Yes, there is Bheda, because look at you, and look at Bhagavan. What does Bhagavan create? The entire Jagat. And what can you create except confusion? What have you created? In your life is confused, and anybody associating with you is also confused. And so you have just created confusion. Look at you. Bhagavan creates the universe, you sow the seeds of doubt and despair in your mind, and you disseminate the seeds as well. You are of no use. And what? This Veda, however, after the truck goes, can be resolved. Only today, every Wednesday we've been having class. But we have not noticed this. New things are coming to light. So this is what is called difference, yet non-difference. Yeah. So non-difference, essentially you and Bhagavan are one. But how do I become one? Not through knowledge, through doing again good works, casting off the mortal coils, being a dharmic person, and then you enter Bhagavan. Yes, like even an amoeba enters, a person. Yeah. If all the devotees enter Bhagavan, Pujya Swamiji says, Bhagavan will get, devotitis. Yeah. That is what Bhagavan will get. Pujya Swamiji says this. Bhagavan will fall sick because all these lowly devotees have entered Bhagavan, as it were. Tvaramana Vishanti, quickly. They all enter Bhagavan, means poor Bhagavan. So this is what is called Bheda and Abheda side by side. I mean, come on, make up your mind. No. We are very accommodative. Yes, there is difference. No, there is no difference. And both are real. Yeah, you are broken and you are whole. Both are real. You know, how can it be possible? You know, if you tell this pot you are cracked and you are not, you know, one thing has to be more real than the other. And just similarly, you cannot tell this pot you are pot and you are clay. One has to be more real. They cannot be synonyms. So Bheda and Abheda cannot be synonyms. One has to be more real. You make up your mind. Here these people are constantly dancing. They are not able to take a stand. And then there are people who says, what Bhagavan? This is all within the Veda. They come under the Vedic fold where they at least accept that there is Bhagavan. Then Veda Bhakyaha, outside, they say, what Bhagavan? I want to close my ears. This is not happening. I am not hearing this. You know, if they talk of Bhagavan, they just leave the body. Because there is so much authority issues, so much pain, fear, sorrow, and all kinds of notions are just embroiled in that. And so these authority issues, even the person who's teaching about this will say, you don't need a guru, inner guru is enough, except for me, the outer guru, to tell you that you have an inner guru. So let's get started on the class, because you need me. And you don't need me forever, but you do need me, you know. And to know that you don't need me, you need me. Again, all these kinds of strange things, you know, strange things. This is all bamboozlement, daylight, you know, robbing of the buddhi. This is what is called daylight robbery of the buddhi. And then, you know, these people who say there is no Ishvara. All there is logic. Just use your brain. This is all science. You know, and if you've met such people, you will continue to meet also. It's all science, everything is scientific. Look. And then if they get interested in the Veda, they want to prove Veda is scientific. If Veda is scientific, Veda is a product of Anumana and Arthapatti. What is Anumana? Inference. And Arthapatti, you know, manifold, many-step inference. That is, but Veda is a pramana in its own right. It's a means of knowledge. They don't see that. Scientific. Everything is scientific. Everything. They are interrogators and trying to explain everything. They just keep explaining, and they are just, their head is full of nonsense, and they try to transfer this nonsense into your head also. Bach ke raho, you know, stay away. This is what Upanishad says, stays away from these people. Then there is the Charvaka. What is Charvaka? What? You're just spoiling your head. Yeah, it's called the dialectical materialist. And you know, who is this Charvaka? This Charvaka is all about the here and the now. See how they fool? Oh, Charvaka tells me to abide the here and the now. Yes, with a vengeance. And Charu Vak Yasya. This is how they mislead. Their sweet is very sweet. Their speech is very sweet. They are dripping, oozing with honey when they open their mouth. Come on, yeah. Everything is here and now. Haven't you heard? Everything is right here, right now. Don't you see that everything is finite? And what is this body other than a bag of flesh and bones and some blood running through, connecting the two? Nothing. It's all going to go soon. It's all going to perish. Oh, that's right. That's a sad thought. Come on, don't be sad. I have a solution. Really? Tell me the solution. Eat, drink, be merry. Let's all do this together. Life is short. So, the point of life is what then? If the life is short, bhoga, bhoga, more bhoga, because you are a bhogi. And then you are a bhogi, correct? And then, and you know, why have you accidentally found yourself in this 5-star universe offering so many delights? Do you think this is an accident? No, that's because you were meant to be here. And if you are supposed to just be a yogi, sitting in a cave and putting a clothespin on your nose and not enjoying the delights and putting just, what is that, cactus and living off cactus and wild herbs and roots, if that is what you are meant to be, why would there be chocolate cake? Answer me now. Why would there be chocolate mousse? Why would there be pastry shops? Why would there be, all kinds of delights, candy stores? Why would there be restaurants? Why would there be movie houses? Why would there be plays? Why would Mozart be born? Why would there be Beethoven? Why would there be rock and roll? Tell me, give me a good reason. Well, I just don't know why all this is there. All this is there is to keep you engaged and not dwell on morbid the reality of the finite. That you have this one body. You are as good as the body. Ow! See? You said ow. I pinched you. Neighbor didn't say ow. You said ow. What does that show? You are the body. And so this is just an experiment. If you think you're not the body, pinch yourself. And then you will know you are the body. And so otherwise life is just gloomy. It's just endless doom and gloom. Cheer up, because look, to forestall and to completely forget about this doom, what is there? All the delights of the universe are placed before you. Be a go-getter. Quick. Run, get this, because otherwise someone else is bound to go get this ahead of you. Do you want that? No, because there's only one of a kind. There's only one such thing, and if you don't get it, somebody else is going to get it, and you're going to be sorry. Get it, rush. No, but why is this fellow sitting in the cave on one leg, standing in the cave in a yogic position? Forget him. Look, do you see how miserable he looks? No, actually he kind of looks happy. That's because he's deluded. 3 days since he ate, stupid fellow. When all these things are right here. When there is a restaurant 5 minutes away, he's digging for potatoes. What an idiot. He can order it, it will come. He can have it delivered. But the stupid fellow is digging for potatoes and cooking khichdi on the stove when he can have, what is that? Mughalai cuisine. Mughalai cuisine means it's full of cream. That's all it is. Oil, butter, cream. This is what Mughalai cuisine is. Navaratna korma, all these things. Everything in cream sauce. That's what you have to eat. No, but it will fry the liver. Let it. Yeah. Because how long the good liver is going to last? Go for a transplant. Stand in line. Yeah. Because so what if liver is damaged? One new liver get. No problem. Yeah. Only one body. All you have to do is get whatever you need to get, because you know what? These things are not going to come by again. But what about rebirth? Have you come? Have you seen anyone being reborn? No. Well, that's based on a belief. What you see is what is real. Chocolate cake to burfis, pastries, and all the sweet things in life, and all the beauteous wonders, the hikes, the bikes, all these things. This is what is real. What you see is real. You better experience it. Max out your credit card, but make sure you have ghee with every meal. Rinam kritva api ghritam pibet. No, but then if I max out my credit card, who will pay the debt? Come on. Who will repay this debt? Come on, where did you learn all these stupid values from? Drop it. Come on. Bhasmi bhutasya dehasya punaragamanam kutah. Do you think once the body is 6 feet under the ground, you are the body, and then or put on the flames, choose your modes of whatever disposal. Do you think somebody is going to come back and be held accountable for this debt? Forget it. Forget dharma, forget karma. Oh, your only karma should be harnessing this body, which is a bhoga yatana, a vehicle for bhoga, to surfeit it with all the delights which you will not otherwise get. The end. This is what is the whole philosophy of Charvaka. Then there is Bauddha, a confused philosophy. And what is that? The world is sorrow. The morrow is full of sorrow. Sorrow, sorrow, sorrow. But everything is mithya. Except sorrow. How? silent on the question. You know? So what do I have to do? You have to get Nibbana, Nirvana. How to get this Nirvana? You watch the mind, because you see, everything is sorrow because the mind has attached to it. So you detach the mind, you watch the mind and say, everything is a subjective thought. Oh, but some things are not subjective. Keep quiet, that also is subjective. That thought which you just thought is subjective, okay? Yeah. There are many variations. I'm just saying what, when I say Bauddha, what was in Adi Shankara's time, that school of Buddhism is what I'm presenting. The traditional, what comes under the the so-called 6 systems of philosophy. There are many versions. We are not talking of modern Buddhism, although modern Buddhism with all these vadas has also taken heavily from some of these, ancient strains. In the ancient world, in Adi Shankara's time, there were 4 strains of Buddhism. This flicker was one strain, that was called Kshanika Vijnanavadi, and then there was one who was Madhyamika, Bauddha, Madhyamika, Kshanika Vijnanavadi, and one more, I don't know. Shunyavadi, correct. Yeah. Shunya fellow, the absolute non-existence of everything, including the one who says there is non-existent. Denying even the sentience that is required to say that there is nothing. So these were the 4 strains, and that is what I am presenting. So what is your duty? I have to help all sentient beings to overcome the sorrow. But if sorrow is the truth of the world, how will they overcome it? But I have to keep trying. Very sad thing. Very sad. But everybody goes in drones because no Ishvara. This is what Nirishvara, philosophies I am presenting. Bauddha Charvaka, scientist, Vaisheshika, Naihayika. These are the Veda Vakyaha. Bahudha Chint, one poor Atma, which happens to be you, which happens to be everything, is the target of so much. It's rife with misunderstanding. Is the sitting duck for misunderstanding. So this is what is Bahudha Chintyamanaha is a Bahudha Chintyamanaha is actually the Hetu. Hetu means the cause. It should be in 5th case. But why is it not in 5th case? It is adjectival usage of the 5th case. Without putting it in 5th case, it is called Hetu Garbhita Visheshana. That is what Bahudha Chintyamanaha is. And then what? Ananya Prokte Gatihi Atra Nasti. Ananya Prokte. This can be seen in 2 ways. Ananyena acharyena prokte sati. Ananya prokte. The acharya who is ananya. Anya, separate. Ananya aprithag darshina. Aprithag darshina prokte sati. Taught by the one who sees no difference. Taught by an Advaitin. Who is an Advaitin? One who is in Advaita. One who is non-dual, who has internalized the non-dual vision. First meaning. Ananya prokte sati gatihi atra nasti. Gatihi means, again two meanings. Gatihi means samsara. Because samsara is also called gati. The word, and where is the connection? Sri, to move. Samsaraha. Sri becomes saraha, and then is movement. Kutilayam gatau. In the crooked, cyclic, vicious cycle way, it's all moving all the time. Everything that is finite is in motion. This is what is called samsara. And this is what is replaced by the word gatihi. Gatihi atra. Atra means asmin atmani. In this atma and in the knower of the atma, gatihi nasti. There is no samsara. When? So the first 2 lines are talking about when the Atma is not known. The second 2 lines are talking about when the favorable and conducive conditions for the proper assimilation of the knowledge of the Atma. Understand? Yeah. So the first 2 lines are talking of the unconducive, unfavorable conditions for knowing the Atma, which results in not knowing the Atma. The third line is going to talk about the ideal conditions for knowing the Atma, And the fourth line, the last line, is giving the cause for both, why it is so difficult to understand the Atma. Okay, so now the third line is what we are on. And Ananya Prokte Sati, Ananyena Acharyena Prokte, taught by a qualified person who has assimilated the non-dual vision of the Upanishad, that I am everything, I am the whole. Taught by such a person, there is no more samsara. Or gati can be taken as plain seeking, which is also samsara, but here specifically striving, seeking. Gatihi nasti, because who is the means here in this knowledge? I am the means. Who is the way? I am the way. Who is the goal? I am the goal. What is jnaya? I. What is jnatam? I. So what is gantavya? I. What is, what is to be gone, to be reached? I. And who is the reacher? I. So therefore, there is nothing to be reached. Gatihi atra nasti. There is no other revolution. There is no other seeking. Gantavya abhavat gatihi nasti. Second meaning of gati. So two meanings of gati and also two meanings of ananya. What is ananya here? First meaning is you take it as a subject. Taught by a person, the person who is teaching is ananya. Correct? So ananyena acha, and it is confusing because actually it is a passive construction. But ananyaha, ananyaha vakti, let's say. So ananyaha vakti means the ananya teaches, and when the ananya teaches, then there is no other problem. The Atma is understood. Then let us look at it in the passive construction. Forget the passive voice, but let us look at ananya as the object of the sentence rather than the subject. So first construction is where the ananya is the teacher. The teacher who is ananya means what? The teacher who is non-separate from the teaching, ananya. And then let us say, now in the second reading, the word ananya qualifies the object, which is Atma. Ananyah vakti and ananyam vakti. Ananyah upadishati, ananyam upadishati. So first ananya teaches and then teaches about ananya. So the ananya qualifies Atma. Karmani, here karma prayoga. Ananya is seen as the object of the sentence. So ananya prokte means ananyam prokte, teaching about this Atma which is ananya. There is no other recourse. Gatihi nasti, no more samsara. You see, four meanings are derived. Two meanings of ananya and two meanings of gati, and we can even eke a third meaning of gati which is almost similar. We will see that, when we see the bhashya. Wait, one more line is there. Aniyan. Aniyan means what? Yasun and ishtan. There are two funny pratyayas and they are like better and best. They are replaced by tarab, tamab. One is yasun means better, and ishtan means best. So aniyan, aniyan means it is increasingly subtle. The more you discuss about it, the more subtle it appears to get, because it is not an object of conjecture. It's not an object that is even available for conjecture. But still there are so many conjectures, because it's not even an object. It is the very nature of the subject. But first I make two mistakes. First mistake, I objectify the Atma, and then I layer on it various conjectures. You see? And so therefore, Aniyan he, Yasmat, because it is subtler than the subtlest. Subtle because it's not recognized as the truth of the subject. Atarkyam, atarkyah, tark, 10th conjugation, which means the basis of so much doubt. Tarka also means logic. Atarkyam, this is not a subject matter for logic. You cannot logically derive the Atma. I exist, therefore Atma is. I think, therefore I am. Somebody tried this. What was his name? Descartes. He put Descartes before day horse. This is what happened. That's why his name was Descartes. I think, therefore I am. What a thought. Oh, do you think it's too hot? Oh, I don't think so. If Descartes said I don't think so, did he cease to exist? But fortunately, Descartes, before he died, said, no, I am, therefore I can think. He changed it. This is what it is. So this is all atarkyam. This is not a possibility for this kind of conjecture. Logic, it's not a horse, to be whipped into some kind of a, it is like a kind of a kalpita logic, in the sense that you presume something and then you justify the presumption. What is your hypothesis? Atma is. That's my hypothesis? Yes, it's my hypothesis. That's your hypothesis? Yes. How are you going to prove it? Because I can think. Atma is. It's not an object for proving, because in its presence everything gets proved or disproved. That I alone, which requires no proof. Yeah. Atma requires no proof. Everything else requires proof, not Atma. And so therefore, this is atarkyam. Aniyanhi atarkyam anupramanat. Anupramanat means because it is, not what you think, because it's totally something other than what you think it is. So, with those words, let us wade into the Bhashya. Nahi narena
Nahi narena
Manushyena
Manushyena
Avarena
Avarena
Proktaha.
Proktaha.
Yeah, so nahi, not indeed, by an inferior person taught. Proktaha. Here we find a slight variation in Adi Shankara's Bhashya style. Nahi narena, he describes as Manushyena. Avarena, he should have straightaway gone to Hinena. Correct? But he inserted Proktaha and there is Vipsa, Avarena. So this Pratika Grahanam, which is there in Bhashya, means the words of the text and then immediately followed by one's own meaning. There is a little bit of a upside down there. The style is there is a style is repetitive and not Bhashyakara, Bhashyakara done almost. So we say that it is etat padam trutitam, it was dropped. Yeah, it was iti uhyate, we presume it was dropped. And then why? By a lazy brahmachari doing the copying. We find this here. So nahi narena manushyena avarena manushyena proktaha. There was no need to say avarena again. Straight away he should have gone to hinena prakrita buddhina iti etat uktaha एषः आत्मा यं त्वं मां पृच्छसि. Yeah, so yam tvam, yam atmanam, that atma which you are asking me, which you ask of me to tell you, this is not understood when taught by a inferior. Hina means inferior. And who is this inferior person? Prakrita buddhina. Adi Shankara has no problem being very objective about this. Prakrita buddhi, samskrita buddhi. By an uncultivated mind. By a mind that is full of doubts and ragadveshas, which itself is not clear about what the Atma is, how will this poor mind be able to teach anything, and be successful? Not possible. So this is avara. Avarena manushyena hinena prakrita buddhina iti etad uktaha. So this is what is said. This Atma, which Atma? This Eshaha, Prakritam, that which is in the context. This Atma, which you are asking me, which you have asked of me. Nahi Sushtu Samyak Vijñāyah Vijñātum Samyak Vijñēyah Vijñātum Shakyah Yasmāt Bahudha Asti Nasti Karta Akarta Shuddhah Ashuddhah Iti Ityadi Anekadha Chintyamanah Vadibhihi. Nahi Sushtu means Samyak Vijñēyah. Sushtu Vijñātum Shakyah is possible. We've already seen this. I'm just explaining according to the Bhashya. Is possible to see, is possible to understand properly. What is understand properly? To internalize this knowledge as the truth of oneself. That I am this Atma. First, I am Atma, this Atma, then I am Atma. This is what? This I am Atma, I am Atma. This is how. This is Aham Brahmasmi. That internalization, the assimilation, the seeing, the cognitive assimilation, and the enjoyment that ensues the non-difference vision. The vision of non-difference is enjoyed by the person, and that enjoyment is seen in the person's way, how that person conducts the life. That is what is called assimilation. So that is not possible. Why? Because the teacher themselves, the person called teacher here, Hina buddhi, prakrita buddhina, hinena avarena prokte sati na vijñēyah. This is not understood. This is not na shakyah. The capacity to understand is not there. Yasmat, why? Bahudha. Bahudha means in many ways. What are the ways? Atma asti. One person. There is such a thing called Atma that survives death. Therefore, you have to be good. That Atma will go to God, and then God will give this Atma some goodies, make this Atma sit right next to him. This is one kind of wrong thinking, that this God is away from the Atma. And then na asti, charvaka, etc. There is nothing other than this body, mind, sense complex. In fact, it's not complex. You are making it a very complex situation. It is all so simple. Why can't you see this? So asti nasti ityadi anekadha, in many ways. Oh, one more. Karta akarta. Atma is karta. Keep doing. That's why you have to do good things. Because the karta is going to go to Bhagavan, and Bhagavan is going to keep you as a servant in heaven. He will be giving you a feather duster made of Garuda feathers, and you will be dusting the knickknacks of Swarga because you are always a karta, and you have to keep doing seva. And there also you go somewhere in heaven upstairs far away, and then you take a Garuda duster and heavenly golden and diamond knickknacks, diamond cut knickknacks. You keep what is that? Dusting, and feel good also because you are serving Bhagavan. And then what? And then, so this is karta. Then anyecha vadanti akarta iti. Akarta means what? Not akarta. You are not a doer. Oh, that's good that I am not a doer. Yes, but I don't know how. But you are not a doer, because this is avara talking. So Avara may somehow intuit that okay, I'm not the karta, but doesn't know how to, or may have heard somewhere, but doesn't know how to communicate that. Then Shuddha, one more thing. Ashuddha, this is the Jin philosophy, Jainas. They say Atma needs to be cleansed. Atma is what catches dirt. Body is not Atma. Body is separate from Atma. Okay. Atma catches dirt. Atma has to be cleansed. That's why they don't bathe. It's very, disconcerting. Yeah. They stop bathing because they don't want to identify with the body. They stop wearing clothes or bathing, but they say Atma has to be cleaned. So, and how to clean the Atma? By putting it through so much rigor, some kind of tapas. And so Atma Ashuddha, and then Atma Shuddha. No, Atma is free, Atma is this thing. And there could also be new age philosophy. You are pure, you are saved, you are pure. This new evangelical philosophy. If you say you are saved, you are no longer a sinner, but then you can go and rob a bank afterwards, nothing will happen, you are absolved, you are pure. Or it could be the Akarta, could be new age philosophy. You are God, you don't do anything wrong, but then you cannot manifest your next meal. This is all about the so-called manifestors, and this is all, these kinds of manifestos are bad news for the one who is the seeker of the whole, the seeker of the Atma iti chintyamanaha iti anekadha, in many and varied and equally confused ways, chintyamanaha vadibhihi. They are called vadins because they are in vada. Vada means argument. So they are argumentative bunch, an argumentative lot of philosophers, hammock philosophers, sipping a tall cool something from the comfort of the hammock, have loosey-goosey thinking just like the hammock. Hammock has no shape, their thinking also has no shape. It morphs into whatever they want it to be. So this poor Atma, the subject matter of so much target misidentification, everything is missed, and this is the Atma that becomes the, sitting duck for various wrong Vadis philosophies. Vada also means just a empty conversation, tea time chit chat. Yeah, like this is what happens, people who sometimes they say, please come, I'm inviting a group of people. Is this the first time they are even seeing a Swami? They don't even know how to say Swami. They only know how to say me. The Swa is little difficult. And, so here I go, and then it is a very strange thing because neither the host nor the guests know how to even, what is satsang, what is this, they don't know. So they serve this lot of snacks and tea designed to make you feel sleepy. First the snacks make you feel sleepy, and the tea is a last ditch attempt to make you wake up to have some conversation. And this is, I thought I was going to talk, but I was, misinformed because each one is an expert there. In this high tea where the legs are dangling from the floor, so high it is. And then because the table was so high in one place, really, then I said, okay, this is a new meaning to high tea because my legs are not even reaching the floor. And so this big high table, I needed a little something to climb onto it, a little footstool to climb onto it, and then I looked and my legs were dangling, and then everybody else sitting at this table, and then this is some kind of a King Arthur discussion, at this table, and then everybody is tabling their own idea. And I just kept quiet. I enjoyed the snacks. That's all. What else can you do? This is all you can do. This is what Bahudha Chintyamanaha. So this is what sometimes the interfaith, movement is all about. Let's bring everyone together and let everyone teach, their own. Let's peddle everyone's wares. This is what, and it gets you, it's wares all right, because it gets you nowheres. That's where it gets you. Everybody is completely confused. And because they are presented as parallel paths to that reality which is really you, which doesn't need any path. And so this is the problem, he says, katham punaha suvigneyaha iti uchyate. How then is it well known? This is what is said. Ananya prokte
Ananyaprokte
Ananyena
Ananyena
Aprithak darshina
Aprithakdarshina
Acharyena
Acharyena
Pratipadya
Pratipadya
Brahmatma
Brahmatma
Bhutena
Bhutena
Prokte
Prokte
Ukte.
Ukte.
Yeah. So, first meaning of Ananya, he says that in this the first time he uses the word Acharya. Previously, he gave a synonym. Nara is just Manushya, not a teacher. Acharya is teacher. So, here only the person who has a Prithag Darshi, who is a Prithag Darshitum Drashtum Sheelam Asya Asti. A Prithag Drashtum Sheelam Asya Asti. Aprithak drish plus nini, you know, so drashtum sheelam asya asti. The person has a capacity to see. Aprithak separate, aprithak non-separate, the one who has internalized the non-separate vision. Acharyena, such a person alone is a teacher. Who is this teacher? Pratipadya Brahmatma Bhutena. Pratipadya means that which is to be taught. Pratipadya, the subject matter which is to be taught, which is what? Brahman. You know, that Brahman, which is Atma Bhuta for such a person. For the person for whom the subject matter has been internalized as the nature of oneself, there is not a bit of difference between the subject matter and the teacher. The teacher is an embodiment, a walking, talking, moving embodiment of the subject matter, which neither walks, talks, nor moves. That is the idea. But which is everything, which is the whole. Pratipadya Brahmatma Bhutena. You know, and what? Prokte sati, ukte sati, when it is taught. And then, you know, then what happens? Let us see. Atmani
Atmani
Gatihi
Gatihi
Anekadha Asti
Anekadha Asti
Nasti
Nasti
Ityadi Lakshana
Ityadi Lakshana
Chinta
Chinta
Gatihi
Gatihi
Atra
Atra
Asmin Atmani
Asmin Atmani
Na Vidyate
Na Vidyate
No Nasti
Nasti
Na Vidyate
Na Vidyate
Sarva
Sarva
Vikalpa
Vikalpa
Gati
Gati
Pratyastamita
Pratyastamita
Pratyastamitatvat
Pratyastamitatva
Atmanaha.
Atmanaha.
Very beautiful bhashya. So, Acharyena, so taught by such a teacher, what happens? Atmani Gatihi. So, where is the Gati? With regard to the Atma, Vishaya Saptami. So, with regard to the Atma, there is no Gati. What kind of Gati? Movement. What kind of a movement? Movement in terms of beliefs. Is the Atma there? Is Atma not there? So, a Gati characterized by whose Lakshana, whose characteristics are in the manner of is there, is not there with reference to the Atma. Many kinds of wrong doubts are not there. Chinta, doubts here. Chinta is not contemplation here, doubts. Gatihi atra. Atra means asmin atmani. The tral in atra, the tral is a suffix. Atra. Tral, saptamyas tral. There is a sutra that instead of seventh case you can use tral. So atra means asmin atmani, in this atma. In this atma means what? With reference to this atma, which is also seventh case. So with reference to the this atma, there is not so many divergent thinkings, so many wrong understandings. Na vidyate. Na vidyate, so this atma, there is no such gati possible even. Na vidyate, it's not, it doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? Sarva vikalpa pratyastamitatvat atmanaha, because the atma is that where all doubts have set. Prati astam itaha pratyastamitaha. Prati plus astam. Astam means set. Itaha in past passive participle, past participle. So from there are no doubts, because all doubts, all dualities, all possibilities, all wrong understandings have the sun of wrong understandings, doubts, fears, terrors, and duality has set when it comes to talking about the Atma in its truest sense. Okay? Understood? Yeah. Sarva Vikalpa. Vikalpa means all this Asti, Nasti, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Amukta, Vimukta, not Mukta, yet to be Mukta, Mumukta now, Baddha later. All these kinds of, wrong thinkings. In fact, all thought stops where? At that consciousness, which even this consciousness is the one. The irony is that the Atma is the one in whose presence these vikalpas, these wrong doubts thrive. Itself free of all doubts, it sustains the doubts because it is not the doubts. Yeah, it's not the subject of the doubt, it's not the object of the doubt, it is free of doubt, in which all doubts come to rest. They find their ultimate resting place when I am taught by a person who knows this and who is non-separate as the teacher. So, ityadi lakshana chinta na vidyate sarva vikalpa pratyastamitatvad atmanah अथवा स्वात्मभूते अनन्ये अस्मिन् आत्मनि प्रोक्ते अनन्यप्रोक्ते गतिः अत्र no, let us stop there. अथवा, otherwise. Next, whenever athava comes, he is giving the other interpretation which we have already seen. Athava swatma bhute, athava that which is the truth of yourself, that which is your own self, which is non-separate from everything, which is you alone, which is ananya from everything, non-separate from everything. In this atma, with regard to this atma, what? This Atma, which is non-separate from everything, is being taught. Prokte. So the Ananya is the object of Prokte, not the subject of Prokte. Yeah. Prokte who? Ananya, that was the first one. Prokte what? This is the second interpretation. So Atma is the subject. No, here, first Atma was the subject in the form of the non-separate teacher. Here Atma is the object of that which is being taught. So then, prokte, ananya prokte, gatihi, atra, atra, anyavagatihi, anyavagatihi, na asti, ज्ञेयस्य अन्यस्य abhavat. Yeah, because see, there is nothing else to know, correct? Once you know the Atma, now the Atma is the object of the sentence, is the object of the teaching. So first the Atma was the subject of the teaching. The Atma means the teacher as a non-separate Atma who knows I am non-separate is teaching. In the second instance, in the second interpretation, Atma is the object of the teaching by a teacher. Forget the teacher now. This Atma which is taught leaves nothing more to be understood. Why? Because what else? How many Atmas there are? One. Other than the Atma, what is there? Nothing. So then what else is there to know? Anyasya, jneyasya, another thing not there to be known. And once I know the Atma, all desire for knowing things and wanting things also pratyastamitam, all gone. All desire for striving to know something or the other is gone, because it is that thing which is described in all the Upanishads as knowing one thing alone. Everything is as well as known. That is what is being talked here. Nothing, don't be confused. And, tomorrow or whenever we meet again, we will, I will, make you write all the interpretations down. 1, 2, 3, 4, we will list them. Yeah. So we'll stop here because it's been a long class. And then I have an announcement also to make. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Slight shift in this class, and I ask your excuse for changing the time again, but it is unavoidable due to I would like to accommodate Janani's schedule, and this class is being an advanced class where we are looking at the nitty-gritty of all the bhashya and everything. So we are going to see if this is going to work, and for now we will have this class will meet at this time, which is 7:30 to 8:45 on Wednesdays and Fridays. Okay, and then what about the two other classes, Tuesday and Thursday? That will be made up on Saturday, Sunday 4 to 6. Okay, Saturday, Sunday 4 to 6, Wednesday, Friday 7:30 to 9:15 are the new timings for the Kathopanishad class. I repeat, Wednesday, Friday, 2 weekdays, 7:30 to 9:15. Please write it down, and I have also put it on the website. If you are confused, go look at the website. Then weekend days, Saturday, Sunday 4 to 6. Okay? Yeah. Now the Gita, what about Gita is the next question. Gita will meet Tuesday to Friday 4 to 5:15. We have elongated the thing to make up for one more class. Tuesday to Friday 4 to 5:15. I'm going to stretch it till 5:15, 5:20 until people's what is that energy goes. I may even take it up to 5:30 if people are enthusiastic and present. So this is what the class schedule will look like. So no Tuesday, Thursday morning class, and then Bhagavad Gita is not there on Saturday, Sunday. In lieu of Bhagavad Gita Saturday, Sunday, we are going to have Kathopanishad, a little extra. Okay, yeah, and this is this is an involved class, and I'm sorry if it doesn't meet with everybody's schedule, but I have tried my best to be as less disruptive as possible, using the time slots already available where people are already coming, so that nobody has to do anything in a stretch. So this is how we'll make up for the Gita with little 15-20 minutes at the end. So that will give us a whole extra hour. 4 days 15 minutes means one more class already.
Yes.
So like that we will do, and then so that way Tuesday mornings are free. You can do your puja and not miss anything. And then what? Thursday mornings are also free to contemplate, to take walks, to whatever one wants.
Vivian says Farnham's and Lloyd says Farnham's.
So when does that start?
Starting this Friday. Tomorrow no class. Tomorrow morning no class with immediate effect. Tomorrow morning no class. This class will meet again on Friday 7:30 a.m. Thank you for asking that.
And Vivian says her summer plans will be there by visiting ER and necessary piano replacement.
ER?
Mm.
Oh no.
She didn't say anything about what, but she's blessed.
Yeah.
She says she's blessed by the online classes. And
Yeah, tell her we are praying for her.
Okay.
Yeah. Namah Shivaya. Hare Rama. Oh. They are wearing their Wednesday dress.